Yes, Marianne.
We are live now.
Yeah.
Uh, Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this The Power of Effective Communications by Leandro webinar. And we are very excited to have you here. So, communication. We all know how important communication is, whether it is making the first move when you're about to date, or whether it is building a rapport with your friends, family, and colleague. We know the importance of communication. How to communicate rightly is what we all want to do. Uh, Communication helps us express our thoughts clearly, express how we feel clearly. So today we have Leandro, who has quite a portfolio for us, who is going to speak about how to communicate better. So before we begin, I would like to introduce Leandro. Leandro, he has trained and transformed over 280,000 executives over 20 years from diverse industries such as banking and finance, aviation, hospitality, technology, advertising, PR, and media. He has also coached and mentored CXOs in the executive presence, facilitated in over 70 countries, spread over 100 nationalities. He is a theater performer by passion and has performed in over 34 productions. Founder and global trainer, director of Miller Wyman Training Headquarters in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. He completed his early education from St. Stanislaus High School and St. Andrews, did his post-graduation from NMIMS in personal management, and his further studies in communications from IIM. Uh, he has also completed his Harvard education in educated in executive communications, has done his leadership, has done his fellowship in leadership communications in Oxford University. And today he is here going to talk about the power of effective communication. So over to you, Leandro. I hope I haven't embarrassed you enough.
No, thank you so much, Marianne, for that lovely introduction. I hope I can become half the man you described me to be. Yeah. Thank you so much once again. Yeah. And welcome, everyone. Welcome. So let's hear it for everyone. Come on, let's hear it for yourselves. Unmute yourselves and give yourselves a huge round of applause. You are doing a far tougher job than I'm doing here this afternoon. I know afternoon for India Standard Time. Having said that, let me take a deep dive into what we're going to cover, how we've divided the session as well. So what we've decided is from 4 to 5, we'll do a little interactive download session, yeah, exchange of ideas. And I want to keep the session extremely interactive. So feel free to ask questions at any point in time. Don't wait, like, should I ask, should I not ask? Should I save this? Should I, would it sound funny? No. We're all here to learn and have a good time while learning, yeah? So feel free to ask. Let's make it interactive. This is your session, yeah? I'm only the guide on the side, just leading it. So 4 to 5 will be the highly interactive exchange of ideas, thoughts. From 5 to 5:30, we have a nice Q&A. So again, you feel free to ask questions as well at any point in time. Don't only wait for the Q&A. Clear, everybody?
Yes.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, here's the agenda and what we're going to cover. One is we're going to be talking about the 3 V's. We're going to be talking about the 2 C's, the 1 big L, the C3 certification, and then we take a deep dive into questions that I'm sure each of you might have. So when we talk about communication, I'm going to keep this board on the side, yeah, right here, so you can view both the board as well as me. This is an open question for anyone on this platform. Have you ever heard of this concept, the 3 V's of communication? What are the 3 V's? Come on, this is for anyone on the platform. Just call out your name because there are so many people, so many windows open. So just say, hey, so-and-so, what are the 3 V's? What is your idea of the 3 V's? You can even Google, come on. Yeah, Janice, I can see you all smiles. Do you want to share?
I don't know the answer. I'll have to Google.
Not knowing is never an issue. Yes, someone said visualization, vocalization. Yeah, instead of putting it down in the chat, also you could perhaps call it out, because sometimes otherwise I got to go back right there and check it out, or unless the chat pops up. Yeah, so call it out. That's how we keep it interactive. Absolutely right. Whoever said that.
We have visual, vocal, and verbal. Balon has answered this, and Lisa Lobo has said visualization, vocalization.
And let me share with you, Marianne, that both of them are right. So give them a round of applause. Absolutely. Visual, vocal, and verbal. I'm going to put this up here. The 3 V's. Can you see it? Marianne, is this clear from your end?
It's too far,
Okay,
It's a little too far. Yeah.
but let it be. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the 3 V's. Someone mentioned visual, vocal, and verbal. What is visual? What is visual?
Leandro,
Yeah.
a suggestion, put the board aside. We interact with you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
What is visual?
Come on, guys.
Don't worry about right or wrong answers. An answer is an answer. Don't worry.
Guys, you can even write it on the chat box. I'll be reading it.
Okay, you'll read it.
Yeah. So I'll lead it and I'll share with you. Visual is what people see when you communicate. The power of your body language, the power of your facial expressions, the power of using your gestures. Is your body upright, or are you slouching like that and talking? Yeah. So the power of visual is very important. Your eye contact. What is vocal? Any guesses what vocal is? Vocal is nothing but my voice modulation, my energy and enthusiasm, my intonation patterns. Am I speaking in this low, mundane kind of tone? Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great session. Amen. I sound like Father Leo, right? I sound like Father Leo there, right? It's absolutely flat, monotonous, boring, in a singular tone. That's why they say, or they call it monotonous, monotone, in a singular tone. So that is your vocal. And what is verbal? Verbal is your choice of words, your vocabulary, your syntax, your grammar, your structure. When you put that all together, you have the 3 V's. Now, where did this concept of 3 V's come about? It was talked about by a former UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles professor, Dr. Albert Mehrabian. Dr. Mehrabian talked about the 3 V's, and he says, for anyone to be an effective communicator, not just a communicator, an effective communicator, he or she has to manage their 3 V's correctly and spot on. Otherwise, you become an average communicator, or a mediocre communicator, or a communicator that has many areas of improvement, because my 3 V's don't match. Now, let me ask you, what percentage of communication do you think is visual? What percentage do you think is vocal? What percentage is verbal?
60-70 visual.
Okay, lovely. Lovely to see our friend sharing. Yes, I believe that's Andre. Andre, lovely. Good share there. Thank you. Vocal? Any idea on vocal?
On the chat box, it's saying 7%, 38%, and 55%.
So whoever made a note of that, kudos to them. 55% of our communication is visual. The power of what people see. What you see, you believe. So the power of visual is extremely important. It's 55% of one's communication is what people see. Can you imagine if I came for this session and Cheryl talked about it and Mary Ann gave a lovely introduction and I came here and I stood here and I came with short pants, I came with a tee, I kind of, my modulation was high, guys. Today we're going to do a session on modulation, on communication, and it's really very important. They just don't sit right. You would start dropping off this call immediately, I could guarantee. Or you make excuses. Let's leave. What a bad session. So the power of visual is very important. What you see is what you believe. Now, every time you open your mouth to communicate or speak, what visual are we giving our audience members? What visual are we giving our audience or people who are watching us, our customers, for example? 38%, like someone rightly mentioned and Mary Ann called out, is the power of my vocal, my voice. Modulation plays for 38%. And like they say in the business world, talk is cheap. And that's why the least is according to verbal, which is just as near or meager 7%. Because you can talk to kingdom come, but if the rubber doesn't hit the road, if there is no action and it's all talk, nothing really happens. How do you get results at the end of the day, month or quarter or year? Action, right? That's why talk is cheap, like they say, and the least was accorded to verbal. However, Merabian threw in something very interesting. He says this is when people are non-congruent. Now, what did he mean when he said people are non-congruent? For example, if I was talking to Mary Ann, this is an example for you, live example, so you can unmute yourself and tell me how you feel, okay? Mary Ann, I have to tell you something. I must say this to you. I think I met you yesterday. We had a nice technical rehearsal with Cheryl, you and I have to say something. I think you're the biggest fool I ever met. Now, what have I just done? I've actually crucified Mary Ann. But what was my vision like? My vision was all positive. It was encouraging. There was a positive outlook. There was affirmation. But what were my words? My verbal killed Mary Ann, right? So was I congruent or was I non-congruent or incongruent? What do you think? I was congruent or incongruent?
Incongruent.
Absolutely, because for you to be congruent, your visual, your vocal, and your verbal must match. Must match. And that's what Merabian says. The old school of thought says communication was visual is 55%, vocal is 38%, verbal is 7%. But in reality, if you really want to be taken seriously, it's 33.3% for visual, 33.3% for vocal, 33.3% for verbal. That is when you're congruent. I'll give you another example. Let's have a volunteer. Anyone wants to put their video on and interact with me? Could be Alistair. Yeah, I see Alistair. Hi, Alistair. You can unmute yourself. Hi, Alistair. Alistair, I'm going to do this little example with Alistair, okay? Alistair, have I told this to you before? Have I told this to you before? Should I tell it to you now? Would you like to hear it from me? Yes or no? Would you like to hear it from me? Should I tell it to you, Alistair? Half kg Surf Excel costs 70 only. Now you can wash your clothes every day. And he was like, what the hell did I do wrong? Yeah, so what I was doing here was look at the text, look at the verbal, something as mundane and silly as half kg Surf Excel costs 70 only. So what? But look at the total quality, look at the vocal. My vocal didn't match my verbal. I was absolutely incongruent when I was communicating with Alistair. What is congruence? Alistair, I don't know whether you recently read an article, but half kg Surf Excel costs 70 only. Congruent. Marianne, I think yesterday at our technical rehearsal, I think you did a fantastic job getting everything together. Thank you so much. Yeah, congruent. Now ask yourself as a reflective mode, whenever we communicate, whether it's in college, whether it's at home, whether it's with our friends circle, are we congruent or are we incongruent? Are we sending the right signal across? And sometimes we wonder, why did he or she not understand me? Why am I misunderstood? Take 2 steps back and you will realize more often than not, the issue might lie with us as communicators because we're giving them the wrong message. We meant to say this, but we said that. Because our visual didn't match our vocal and it didn't match our verbal. These 3 V's are of critical importance: your visual, your vocal, and your verbal. And if there is incongruence with these 3 V's, you will be an ineffective communicator. Okay, so that's with the 3 V's. Let's come to any questions. I'm happy to take any questions, doubts, or another option is keep making in terms of you have questions or doubts, you can ask it along the way at any point in time, or save them for the Q&A part, which is from 5 to 5:30. But I'm happy to answer any question. Yeah. But if you have a question, ask. Don't hesitate. Yeah. Let's come to the other part, which is the 2 big C's of communication. The 2 big C's. What do you think are these 2 big C's people talk about when they talk about effective communication, powerful communicators? What are these 2 big C's? Any guesses? Take a wild guess. Don't worry.
Coherence.
Someone said coherence. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
To be
Good
clear.
start. To be clear, clarity. Thank you so much for sharing that, Janice. Thank you. I love when people share. It's never the right or wrong answers, but it's always sharing, because when you share, everyone learns on the platform. So share. No one's judging anyone for a right or wrong answer. Someone says from Royston Sequeira, correctness. Thank you, Royston, for sharing that. Correctness. Lovely. Content from Aaron Fernandez. Aaron Fernandez, you hit the nail on the head.
Is it context as well?
Quite right. When you take the text out of context, it's only a pretext, like we say. So context is interesting, but I think someone mentioned characters. Well, character is very important, not just in communication, but in life, because they say you hire people for their competence, but you fire them for their lack of character. Character is what you do when no one's looking. Since someone put that up, I thought it was very interesting share, so I just shared that. But anyways, the 2 big
Clarity.
Someone mentioned clarity. Thank you so much, Alfred, for sharing clarity. Absolutely, clarity of speech. When it comes to verbal communication, clarity is very important. However, the 2 big C's that HPS prescribes for effective or powerful communicators would be, what is my connect with my audience? And the second big C is, what's my content? So everyone who mentioned all of your C's, you're absolutely right, one way or the other, right? I can be a fantastic communicator, but if I have no character, what is the use? Like Alfred mentioned rightly, if I tend to mutter and I talk in a confined lip movement, oh, I know you very well, thank you, it was nice meeting you, yeah, whatever, only I know what I'm saying right now, you have no clue what I just said, exactly. How often do many of us talk with this confined lip movement, what we call our mutter paneer friends, yeah, they tend to mutter along. So clarity is critical, not just in delivery, but also in content, being clear what you want to send across. But the 2 big C's are mine. I'm going to put it up here. I made a little board for you guys. Is this clear? Is this clear? One is content and the other is, what's the other big C? My connect. Now, when you have audiences, remember, as a presenter, as a communicator, you can either have a very high emotional connect with your audience, or you can have a low emotional connect. Or your content can be pretty much self-centered content from my perspective, from my POV. What is my POV? What does POV stand for?
Point of view.
Absolutely, my point of view. I couldn't care damn about the audience. No, if I'm here and I need to be effective, I need to care about who's listening in on the other end. So audience-centric content, or I could have self-centered content or audience-centered content. That means I speak from my listener or my audience or my customer or my participant's perspective, and not just because what I want to share today. And one way of doing that is to have a very strong Q&A. That's when the audience shares also their point of view, because everyone on this audience has a point of view and they have a right to their point of view. So look at this little matrix here. You have high emotional connect, you have low emotional connect. You have self-centered content, you have audience-centered content. Now, if you look up here on the extreme right, you would find here, when there is high emotional connect, but it is self-centered content, that's when I entertain my audience. I get them to laugh a little, but it's all coming from my end. There may not be really a big takeaway from the audience's perspective. What happens when there is self-centered content and there is low emotional connect? That is when I inform my audience. So this is what you need to do. This is your homework for the next session. These are the steps you need to take in order to become an effective communicator. I'm just informing you. I'm just telling you. How I do it, I'm not concerned about. And that's the problem. What happens when I have low emotional connect, but it's audience-centered content? That is when I direct you. I say, well, these are the steps you need to take, because if you take these steps, Janice, it will help you achieve this. If you take these actions, these are the benefits you will receive, Alistair. So I direct you. I show you the way. I become a guide on the side. This is where a VIFM is there for the audience. What's a VIFM? What's in it for me? What's in it for them, the audience? And finally, this last quadrant, right up here on extreme left, is the most critical. And this is a place where we all need to finally move to. That is where there is high emotional connect, and there's also audience-centered content. That is when I inspire you and I influence you. And why do I want to inspire and influence you? I want to inspire and influence you to what? To take an action, to work on something. And why do you take that action? Because there is a benefit in taking that action. That's when you have, what's in it for me, Leo? Why should I even attend the session? What will I gain from this 1.5 hours? If there's no VIFM, it becomes just a lecture, which can get boring and mundane after a while. What's in it for me? All audiences, all adult learning audiences will always ask themselves, I'm sitting in here, but what's in it for me? What am I taking away? What can I apply? If there is no pragmatism, if there is no practicality to what you learn and you can't apply what you learn, it just becomes theory and stays in the book. So application is also the key. Now, you may ask me, is it wrong, Leandro, to entertain, inform, direct? No. As communicators, as presenters, you will entertain your audience. You will inform them. You will direct them. But all these routes finally should be leading to inspire and influence. Ultimately, your main goal as a communicator and a presenter, executive presenter, is to influence and to inspire your audience to action. Because there's a benefit that they see if they take that action. Otherwise, no one's going to do it. Illa. No one is going to do what you ask them to do just because you ask them to do it, if they don't see sense or see a benefit in doing that action or taking that action. That is when you actually inspire and influence your audience. You will entertain, and you must. You will direct. You will inform. But all roads ultimately lead to, I need to inspire and influence them. And that's where someone talked about character. That is what builds credibility, right? Your character and your competence is your credibility. How interesting, in the corporate world, people are looking for competence. Can he or she achieve or do that job? Are people only checking for character? That's why it's a very important word. And I'm happy someone as young as we are put that up there, because that is so important, character. You get hired for competence, but you'll be the first to go for lack of character. Yeah? Okay, let's come to the one big L. What is the one big L? You know, everyone thinks about communication as, oh, I need to speak, I need to inform, I need to inspire Cheryl, I need to tell Marianne, I need to direct Alistair. But what is the big L that we miss?
On the chat box,
Language.
we've had listening, lead. Yeah, a lot of them are saying listening.
Absolutely. Marianne, this is one smart cohort. The big L is listen. Absolutely, listen. And that's the very reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we need to listen more and speak less, but we just reversed it, right? A lot of us, including me at times, tend to, you know, when I go in for executive coaching, out of an hour session, 80% or 85% of the time, I'm listening to my coach. And just the remaining 10 to 15%, you know, I kind of talk or whatever, but I'm listening. And you ask any top sales professional, and they'll tell you 85% of the sales pipeline or game is listen to what the customer wants. But there are very many filters that come in our way, right? Our own agenda, certain hotspots that we may have that affect our listening. There are 5 different levels of listening. HBS puts it very nicely. You know, HBS is Harvard Business School. They put it as the lowest level is ignore. So basically, if Marianne's talking to me, or let's say Andre is telling me something, and I'm just not interested, basically. And, you know, I just think, so you'll get these verbal nods, and if someone pokes a little deeper and says, what did you just say? They are lost. They have no clue what the person just said. Pretend or ignore. Ignore is basically just, you know, I'm not even interested. Pretend is more where you'll get the verbal nods, and you push a little more, and they have no clue of what you've said. Pretend to listen. Next is selective listening. What is selective listening? I select what I want to listen to. Everything else that doesn't fit into my agenda, out of the window. Whether it's critical to the decision-making process or not, but if it doesn't sit right with me, it's out of the window. And sometimes, in a sense, you may lose critical, important decision-making metrics that are thrown out of the window just because they don't sit right with you. There could be ego issues. There could be psychological issues, various barriers, right? Physical barriers, for example. What's the next form of listening, which is the better form of listening? So you have the worst, which is ignore, then you have pretend, then you have selective, right in between. Then you have attentive listening. When you have attentive listening, you actually have people sitting in totally upright, you know, listening. There is eye contact. They're with you. You ask them a question and they can answer back. They're absolutely attentive, attention to detail as well. And you know, these people who are attentive listeners, they don't only listen for your words, they listen even for your emotions and your body language. They're watching the entire web philosophy. What is web? Listen for people's words, listen for people's emotions, listen for people's body language. That means watch, look at people, the web philosophy of listening. And the best form of listening is the highest level, empathetic listening, where you actually listen and feel with the person. Yeah, I feel sorry for, more sympathy, I feel sorry with, I understand the pain the person is going through, is empathizing with the situation, although you may have not gone through the situation. 5 different levels of listening. There are very interesting listening tests and things like that. We'll talk about that later. Any questions so far? Any questions so far before I go to important parameters of communication and presentation and things like that? What are these 5 major parameters that I keep using HPS because that's my alma mater and that's like the mother lode, you know, in terms of giving directions in communication and presentation, specifically because one is an expert in that area. Any questions so far from anyone on the 3 V's? On the 2 C's, on the 1 big L, which is listening? If there are no questions, I'll jump to the 5 important parameters. So what are these 5 major important parameters? When you talk about communication, the biggest parameter is voice modulation. And that's where this V of vocal comes into play. Yeah. What is your modulation like? And when you talk about modulation, you talk about stress patterns, you talk about emphasis. I'll give you a simple example. For example, if I say, this is the house that Jack built. What am I stressing on?
House and Jack.
Excellent, Darren. Thank you. House and Jack. So what meaning do you get? Who built the house?
Jack,
Jack, Tabitha, thank you. And what did Jack build?
the house.
The house, exactly. Why am I stressing or emphasizing on those 2 words? You see, English is made up of 2 types of words. You have content words, you have structure words. Content words are the most important words in my sentence. They add meaning and value to my sentence. This is the house that Jack built. I am emphasizing, I am stressing on house and Jack because these are the most important words. What are the other words? This, that, built. These are structure words. They only add grammatical value to the sentence. They are like for example, you have the bone and the meat on the bone are the most important content words and the bone is the structure words. They're the unimportant words. They only add grammatical value to the sentence. So what does the rule tell us? The rule says, go ahead and stress your content words, your most important words. And you know why? There's a double whammy here. Because when you stress words in a sentence and you emphasize, it reduces your ROS. What is your ROS? Anyone? Any wild guesses? What is ROS? Anyone heard of this technical term ROS when it comes to communication? Rate of speech. Yeah, I can either be too fast. For example, if I say, Tabitha, yeah, morning. Tabitha, what did I just say? Morning.
No idea.
No, exactly. Tabitha says, Leandro, I have no clue what you said. Now, is it Tabitha's fault or is it Leo's fault?
Your fault.
Absolutely. Leo's fault. Why is it Leo's fault? Because he was so fast. And Tabitha couldn't even catch an inkling or an iota of that sentence. You know what I asked Tabitha? Tabitha, may I have a cup of coffee? Tabitha, may I have a coffee? I can't control my pace and pause. Forget about communication. Rudimentary as it may sound and how elementary it might be, but pace is critical because your pace and your pause builds your credibility as a communicator. I'll give you another classic example. Let's say I'm talking to Darren. Darren, suppose I'm saying, Darren, I want a cup of coffee. Darren is sleeping by now. If he isn't, I'm surprised. So damn slow, right? People would have gone between Bandra and Churchgate at least a number of times and I still haven't finished. Yeah. If I'm too slow on one end of the spectrum, or I'm too fast in the Beta's case, and I'm talking to the Beta, it's a danger zone. So how do I control my rate of speech? There's only one rule in the book that will help you to control your fast rate of speech, is to increase your stress patterns on important words in a sentence. Exactly how I just did it for you. Suppose I said, I didn't say he stole the money. What am I stressing on? I'll do it again. I didn't say he stole the money.
He.
What message do you get from this, Janice? I didn't say he stole the money.
You're specifically pointing out to someone and you're trying to say something about that person.
Exactly. I didn't say he stole the money. Maybe someone else took it, right? Jim didn't take it. Joseph took it, right? Thank you so much for sharing, Janice. What if I said Andre? What if I said I didn't say he stole the money, and I'm stressing which word here. I didn't say he stole the money. What am I stressing?
Is it me or Andre Robo? There are two Andre.
Andre F.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned the same thing, but you said I didn't mention. You said
I didn't say he stole the money. So what am I stressing on?
that you didn't say he stole the money.
Yeah, no,
Yourself.
I didn't say he stole the money. I may have suggested. For example, the answer you were giving me would be like, I didn't say he stole the money, someone else said it, not me. Don't look at me. I didn't say it, for crying out loud. Sheila said it, not me. I didn't say he stole the money, I only suggested. You misunderstood, it's your problem. I didn't say he stole the money, he could have borrowed it, right? I didn't say he stole the money, maybe he took the jewelry instead and ran away. Each time I change my stress patterns in a sentence, it changes the full meaning in that sentence. Now ask yourself, every time you communicate, number one, as a reflective question here, are we stressing? Question two to reflect on, if we are we stressing the right word or are we stressing the wrong word? Because that will give my end listener or customer or consumer or audience a totally different meaning. And very often we wonder, why hasn't he or she understood me? Because maybe I was stressing the wrong word as the communicator and he or she misunderstood and took another meaning out of it. Yeah, so stress plays a critical role, and that's part of modulation. There are many other factors that fall under voice modulation, but I'm just touching the most important today. The other is clarity of thought. How do I build my clarity of thought? What is clarity of thought? My fluency levels. How often, I know we are still pretty much in our early years in college, and or some of us, I guess, also in the working sphere, right? Early years of working. You may have realized for those who are in the early years of working and have gone to interviews, or even those who are still studying and have work part-time, whatever, how often we go to an interview and we ask, tell us something about yourself, and we are like, well, my name is and you have so many fillers and foregons, and we just don't know what to say next. We don't know how to connect the dots. That is when I would say, an area of improvement in terms of my clarity of thought. My fluency levels need work. Again, there are tools, tips, tricks, and techniques on how to build your clarity of thought. I think one of our friends on the platform rightly mentioned clarity of speech. So how clear you are. Can anyone understand you? I reckon on this platform today, we're pretty much all proud Indians, right? But in the sphere that I work in, I'm dealing with a global community on a daily basis across the globe, right? So I have to, by and large, my rate of speech is quite fast, and I have to make an effort and an attempt, a conscious attempt to reduce my rate of speech by increasing my stress patterns when I speak. Otherwise, if I'm dealing with someone from the Nordics, vis-a-vis someone from Europe, Western Europe or Eastern Europe, or someone from Africa or the Middle East, they would find it very difficult to understand. As your audience demographics keep increasing, you realize rate of speech plays a critical role. As long as we have proud Indians on this platform, we realize, oh, we pick it up any which ways, right? Sometimes even we pick up things that are not being said because we're close to home, we're comfortable. But the moment you're exposed to a larger audience, and that's exactly what we want to do also in Take Charge, right? Expose you to wider audiences also, right? Push you out of your comfort zone. So I talked about modulation, I talked about clarity of thought, clarity of speech. The other two are pretty much elementary, but very critical and important, especially if you're in lines which require you to have it right, and that is your pronunciation and your grammar, which is your syntax. Now, being English, coming from English medium backgrounds, coming from the homes that we all come from, we find that it's so, we want to speak in English, or we speak maybe sometimes in Konkani or whatever we speak at home in local languages, but mostly it's English, right? And so we feel there's a certain amount of comfort. But if you dig deeper, you realize a lot of loopholes in the way we communicate, either with a lot of Indianisms being used or sentence structure, which if you have exposed again to a global audience or to an audience in India, why do I keep saying global audience, to an audience in India who's aware of the basics of the language, and it does, for example, I like listening music. Is this right or wrong? I like listening music.
Wrong.
What is wrong with this, Abhita?
You should add, I like listening to music.
Absolutely, something as simple as it's a prepositional error, right? Now you may say, Lee, what's wrong in saying I like listening to music? I mean, as long as you get the drift and all, yeah, no problem. But I always say think global. Think right? That's not the right way. I'm going to station. I'm going to station. Is this right or wrong? I'm going to station.
Wrong.
Wrong. What is wrong with this?
I'm going to the station.
So what is missing? The, which is my article, right? Absolutely. Now you missed something as basic as, where do 85% of Indians mess up on? Articles, prepositions, tenses, and SVA. What is an SVA? Anyone? SVA? Subject verb agreement. For example, I likes chocolate. Instead of I like chocolate. You say, but we don't speak like that. You'll be surprised. When we do in-depth sessions and we actually analyze and give everyone a platform to speak, that's when a lot of errors come tumbling out of the woodwork, because for some odd reason, either in school or in college, one has not corrected us. We've learned it, we know what is the right way of saying it, but somehow with our local lingo and colloquialisms and Indianisms all mixed, everything comes running out of the woodwork. Yeah. So grammar plays a very important role, as well as pronunciation. For example, what is your name? What's wrong with that? What is your name? Janice is smiling. Very nice. What's wrong with this? Anything wrong with Nikita? What's wrong with what is your name?
I think it has to be what is your name?
Yeah, but who says it should be? I learned it as what? What is your name?
It's the accent.
Nicole, thank you so much. It's my accent neutralization, right? Now we don't require, like I said, we're proud Indians. We don't require a British or American accent. I don't have an accent living out for so many years as well, right? But I'm neutral. So whether I'm talking to someone in Nigeria, whether I'm talking to someone in Malaysia, whether I'm talking to someone in the United States or closer home, I'm neutral. My rate of speech is taken care of. I'm absolutely neutral. My pronunciation is right. What impacts pronunciation? What? For example, what impacts pronunciation? What and what? What is the difference in what and what? Apart from pronunciation and accent, what am I messing up here? Something as basic as vowel swaps. So when I swap my vowels, it will lead to a pronunciation error. When my consonants are impacted, where do Indians really, this is, when I keep saying Indians, please don't take it as, and I say that as a proud Indian myself, because there's a science behind it, right? The study tells us that almost 85% of Indians mess up with these sounds, specifically in the consonant area, your T, your D, your V, your W, your TH and R. They get very heavy. Today, talking, told, instead of today, talking, told. Yeah, so we have to, we can always learn how to soften these T's and D's to sound more neutral. So what helps pronunciation? Your consonant sounds, your vowel sounds, and syllable stress. A very common example is development. A lot of people say development. Is development right? Or is it development? Wrong? Sorry?
Development.
Good try, very good try. Is it Shalin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It is development. Now, why do I sound slightly development? First of all, development. There are 4 syllables here. Development. Syllable stress, I need to stress on the right syllable to get the pronunciation right. Development. So I stress on the second syllable, well. Because even if I went, where would Shalin go? Development, stressing the third syllable, la. Development, which is wrong. So syllable stress plays a very important role. How do I pronounce this word? This is an open challenge for anyone on this platform. R-E-P-E-T-I-T-I-V-E.
Repetitive.
Good try. Thank you. Anyone else? Good try. Thank you very much, Nikita. Anyone else?
Repetitive.
Very
repetitive.
Good. I think, yeah, it is repetitive, exactly. Because a lot of us in India don't say repetitive. It's repetitive like competitive sport, right? So something that's repeated often is repetitive. Now you may say English is made up of high frequency and low frequency words. What are your high frequency words? A word like table, chair, fan, these are high frequency words. You'd use them practically every day or every second day. But what's a low frequency word? A word like arachnophobia. How often would you use it? Perhaps once in 6 months, which is basically fear of spiders, right? So I tell all my students as well, start focusing on your high frequency words first, and you can always slowly work on your low frequency. But start with the high frequency. Now, a word like repetitive is pretty high frequency. And so a lot of us say repetitive, but it's not impacting my communication. Yes, it is, depending who you're talking to. And it doesn't really actually also depend who you're talking to. Why should you have the wrong pronunciation? You could be talking to a janitor, you could be talking to a principal, you could be talking to a business head at a company that you intend to work at. Why should you get it wrong? Is the question you need to ask yourself. So these are the 5 major parameters that make up communication or effective communicators. Their voice modulation, their clarity of speech, their clarity of thought, their pronunciation, and their grammar. Now, what are the 5 factors that really make master or executive presenters? Because communication and presentation, you have to be a good communicator first to become an executive presenter. The first step is to be a good communicator, build on that skill, then you can present to larger audiences. But your communication needs to be strong first. The 5 major parameters. Again, HPS lays it out. One is their visual. We talked about the 3 V's: the visual, the vocal, the verbal. How does the audience perceive the presenter? Visually, vocally, verbally, and this is where verbal ties down to communication skills, because the communication skills is nothing but your verbal quotient. And the last 2 is audience interaction. Are they interacting with the audience, or is it a one-way, tell-only session? Boring. And the last is Q&A. How does the presenter manage the Q&A part, the question and answer part, which is very critical. So these are the 5 major parameters. This is how we assess global CEOs on their communication and their presentation whenever we are coaching with the CX level, right? It's almost 4:57. I'm happy to let me share something on the C3 certification, okay? Let me show this to you. Now, this is the C3 certification. It is awarded by our training company, which is Miller Wyman Training Inc. USA, okay? We're headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts. We are based out of 69 countries, and we're a strong team of about 150 odd trainers. Having said that, we provide the C3 certification, which is the highest certification in soft skills in the world. Now, where do we get it from? It's affiliated. We're affiliated to the highest training body in the United States, which is formerly known as the ASTD, the American Society of Training and Development. Now that association is known as the ATD, which is known as the Association of Talent and Development, ATD. Now, we go around the world with various big companies. If you check us out, you'll see, I'm sure Cheryl will share, be happy to share later on. We go around the world actually giving people the C3 certification. This is what it looks like. Okay. And we are happy. I was born and bred in Bombay, in a place called Bandra. And so Bombay is very close to one is it's close to my heart, Bandra especially, but Take Charge is all over. But it's an Archdiocese of Bombay program, and we are happy to help. So we decided that apart from the session, Cheryl will help you later on with this, as well as Marianne. We can take 50 people who I know times are tough, although I travel extensively, but if things do get better in India, I'm happy to travel to India, because anyway, I travel often to Asia and within the continent, subcontinent, but I'm happy to travel to India and run the session, an entire session, touching all these 5 parameters in detail with you on communication and presentation, and to certify 50 of you. Now, I know there will be many people interested, so Cheryl and team will finally then take a call and decide over and above would be, number 1 is interest and passion to see this through. And it would take roughly 2 days of communication and 2 days of presentation. And then you'll have to do a little testing segment where we test you, and then we can assess you and then certify you. Yeah, so we haven't done the logistics as of now, so I cannot say anything at this moment. But I told Cheryl that this is the idea that we had, and we had discussed it. I was happy to share this idea with you. And for those of you who are interested in learning these 5 major parameters in each area in detail, feel free to reach out to Cheryl and team at Take Charge, and they will liaison with me, and then we can do a live session if times are safer in India, considering the pandemic. Yeah. But that's it really. I'm happy to take any questions now. Feel free. This is your time. Shoot.
I had a question. Darren.
Hi, Darren.
Yeah. So, as you said about stressing on words, you've not mentioned about punctuation. So, is your meaning of stressing on words also include punctuation, or does it exclude? Can you share more about how punctuations play a part in your conversation?
Thank you very much, Darren, for that question. Very interesting question, and absolutely right. in fact, the question is an offshoot of what I should have covered, which would be, for example, a comma. That's when you have a pregnant pause, a slight pause, yeah? But a major pause will always be taken at a full stop. And why do you pause at a full stop? For two major reasons, Darren. One is so that you have some breath control and support. You let the listener or the audience kind of regurgitate the information, make sense of what you've shared with them, and then to respond appropriately. So there are two main reasons why I pause technically while I'm speaking or presenting. So yeah, you would pause a pregnant pause though at a comma, but a nice big pause would be at a full stop shift. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. Next.
And so I just have another question. Yeah. So when it comes to clarity of thought, so how do you better your clarity of thought? I mean, any tips from you in terms of how can you better your clarity of thought?
Sure, thank you so much for that question. The various parameters that you can look into for clarity of thought to build and strengthen your clarity of thought. One could be you talk about the what, where, when, how, who, or why of the topic. You could talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the topic. You could talk about the past, present, or future of the topic. You could compare and contrast the topic. Something that I swear by and I use a lot in my speaking career would be drawing associations. And that's a skill I would like to actually teach you for those who, when they apply, on how to draw associations and build on that. Because it's not always the black and white, there's a lot of gray. And so there's a lot of thought process and feeling in those gray areas and how to tap and connect the dots. So it's an interesting question, but I've shared with you the first 3 or 4, but the draw associations require some time to go through a strategic exercise with me to understand how to draw associations and actually live that learning through practice and rehearsal. You see, communication and presentation, Darren, is a soft skill. Unlike swimming or driving, which is a motor skill, right? So even if you stop driving for about a year or 2, and then you jump into your vehicle after a couple of years, you'll still be able to drive. Yeah, you have a little hiccups here and there with your accident brake clutch, but you'll drive. Same with swimming. You don't swim for well, in the pandemic, I think no one ever swam for a while in pools, right? And then you have to jump into a pool. If you can swim, you'll swim. Unlike soft skills, our soft skills, if you don't rehearse, revise, and practice, you will rust. And that's why I tell people it's practice, practice, and practice. And that drives excellence, not even perfection. Perfection is for the big man up there. Have I answered your question, Darren?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. There's a question in the chat box. Marianne, you want to read that?
Yes. So we have Lisa Lobo saying, how does one respond, react to when one is asked an unexpected question? What can one fill in with while they take the time to think and answer?
Is that from Lisa?
Yes, Lisa Lobo.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for being the middle lady in here. Yeah, Lisa, thank you so much for that question. Very often people are asked, in fact, your question is quite easy. I'll tell you why. There are times people ask tough questions. They ask those pray don't ask questions to the presenter, right? And all of us, when we're on the global stage, sometimes audiences are very unforgiving. They'll wait to ring you and to get you down, right? Sometimes it's an ego issue. Sometimes it's like, let me poke further to see how much the presenter knows in this area of expertise, yeah? I'll tell you, I'll break this up for you because it's a layered question. It's a very interesting question asked by you, Priya. Number one is, let's say you're asked something by the audience and you have no answer to. Now, remember one thing, as a presenter or as an expert in that area, yes, you need to know, I would say at least close to about 85 to 90% of your subject matter on the back of your hand. Otherwise, you shouldn't be an expert in that area, right? Having said that, there are times audiences are going to ask you a question that you may not have an answer to. Please don't fib. Have the guts, be honest, have the character to say, you know what, I'm happy to answer that, but it beats me at the moment. Is it okay? Come back to you on this. Go back, check, and it's your duty to come back to that audience member and share the answer with them. Because I'll tell you, today in our digitized world, all of you can Google and double check immediately what I'm just sharing. You will drop all your credibility down if you lie. So be honest enough to say, in case you ask a sticky question or you don't have the answer to that question, it beats me at the moment, but I'm happy to find out for you. That shows that you're being proactive, and it's okay not to know, but it's not okay to lie and to, kind of cover up to show you know, because people will read through that. Yeah. Now, in cases of a sticky question, so, when does it invite a fight? When I listen and I respond. It invites a fight. It becomes a tug of war between the audience and the presenter. There are two things that happen in between. Listen to the question, acknowledge the questioner. As simple as, thank you very much, Priya. Thank you so much, Dad. That was a very interesting question. Acknowledge them because it kind of soothes the nerves, right? Acknowledge them, paraphrase the question. Now, if the question is multi-layered, if the question has complexities in it, there are various answers to that one question, always paraphrase the question. Let me understand, Priya, correctly. Do you mean this? Are you looking for that? And I'll tell you why out of experience. Let's say I've been asked a multi-layered question, and I think I've understood the question. And I started to answer it. And then that smart addict sits folded hands like that. And after I finish that entire spiel, tells me, but that's what I was not looking for. And you get that from audience members. So the trick is to listen, acknowledge, simple acknowledgement. Paraphrase, if it is multi-layered or complex. If it's a simple question, you don't need to paraphrase it. But if you feel there's a doubt or there are various answers to this one question, always it's safer to paraphrase and then respond. You'll find you'll be more successful in managing sticky Q&A rounds. Because audiences, Priya, are very unforgiving. You always have the one smart addict who will try to see and poke and check whether you know, which is okay. Which is okay. So if you don't know, say you don't know, be honest about it. But if you know, and it's multi-layered or complex, paraphrase. It saves the day. Have I answered your question, Priya? Next. Oh, Lisa, sorry, I kept saying Priya. Sorry, Lisa.
I had a question around communicating in a team. So if you are leading a team and you want to give negative feedback, like in the beginning, you gave us an example with Marianne, but there was incongruence. How do we show congruence without having a rough vocal expression? Like we know what we have to say verbally, but how do we say it without being rude?
Thank you so much. This is Nikita. Nikita, thank you so much for that question. Very interesting question. And I can give you a very personal example because I lead a team of 150 trainers, pretty much global in nature, from different continents and different countries in the world as well. And it can get tough at times, especially if you're dealing with the native English ones, so like the Americans or the Brits, right? We're always like, no, but why leave? Why should we do it like that? We can try that, yeah. Very often, let me share this with you. People always think feedback is about giving Nikita an area of improvement. Not necessary. In fact, there's a school of thought which says feedback is a lot about reinforcing what Nikita is doing correct. And why to reinforce that? So she can continue that behavior. Very often in teams, people are never told what they're doing right. They're always told what they're doing wrong. And so there's a natural personal aversion to feedback. However, I'm coming to your question now. There are times you need to call a spade and not a shovel, right? Yeah, and that's exactly where your question stems from. There's something that we use that it's pretty old school, and I'll share multiple models with you. One is the sandwich method of feedback, right? Where you tell them what they've done well, Then you, in between, like a sandwich, you jam pack it in with the areas of improvement. Your choice of words are critical as well. So if you start telling people, you were this and you were that, if you impact people's status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness, they just block you and blank you out, Nikita, and they stop listening to you. So you have to be very careful. Feedback there's an art to giving feedback, especially when feedback is, when there are more areas of improvement than strengths. So obviously you have to always be aware of tone. Your tonal quality plays a critical role, and your choice of words. So I can still say, for example, hey Lisa, is this a good time to talk with you? Let's do a simple role play, all right? Lisa, is this a good time to talk with you? Say.
Hello, am I audible?
No, I think now you are. Now you are. Go ahead, let's do a live role play. Lisa, Nikita, is this Nikita, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Nikita, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Lovely, lovely. Is this a good time to talk?
Yes, it is.
Lovely. Nikita, I was just running through the lovely report that you shared with us on the vendor management that we need to look at this quarter. I want to share a few thoughts. Number one is thank you. You definitely over-delivered, and you said you'd send it in next week, and Friday, voila, it's already in my box. Thank you so much for really pushing the envelope there and the curve. Thank you for managing the timeline so well. I did read the report in great detail, and I found that within paragraph number 2, if you have a look deeper, I believe you talked about vendors in terms of figures there. Do you think you could share, do you think it would help if you shared, apart from figures that we've spent with vendors, could you also share perhaps the tenure that each vendor has been with us and the good vendor management reports that each one has given us over the last 3 quarters? Would that help, you think? Would that add value to the report?
Yes, it would.
It would, okay. Lovely. And since, by when do you think you'll be able to manage that?
I think in the next 24 hours.
Lovely. That's lovely. So I would say by Monday evening. So Monday, your time would be the 6th, the 7th of March. So what time on the 7th of March?
I think by 6:30 p.m.
Perfect. 6:30 p.m. IST. Lovely. Thank you so much, Nikita, for sharing that. I'm looking forward to having that vendor report with these changes in the content. Is there anything else you want to ask me or double check?
No, not for now. If I do have questions, I will come back.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah. So I've given you feedback, and how do you feel about it? Be honest.
I felt like you appreciated me for my work first, and then when it came to improvement opportunities, you asked me if I thought that the idea was good or if I had something else to add. And then when you closed, you did ask me about by when I can give it to you. So I think that deadline and completion of performance was included. So yeah, I think it was less of a feedback and more of a task to do. So yeah.
The whole idea is if you think it through, because I didn't think it for you, you thought it through, there's a bigger commitment to it because no two brains are alike. So when you're giving feedback, always talk again from another person's point of view, right? Ask them what worked, what can be better. So basically, we also have another form of feedback. A model is what they can start doing, what they can stop doing, what they can continue to do. Yeah, the stop, start, and continue method of feedback as well.
And so just to follow up on that, if I had to use the 2C method, how am I going to influence like what's in it for me when you're trying to give me a task?
Oh, thank you so much. You're talking about the 2 C's, which is connect and content, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So how do I come in the influence zone?
For that, you'd have to talk to Cheryl to see whether you make it to the 50. So today was just.
Thank you.
I'm not trying to. What I'm trying to be honest about. It's a process. I have to really help you through and help you think through the process of how to build. There are a lot of tools, tips, tricks, and techniques. So I wouldn't be doing justice in a quick Q&A on how to build that. But sharing, like I said, taking from this base, presentation skills, the access is always the 2 C's. My connect with my audience and the content that I'm delivering. But how do I create audience-centered content? There's the entire flow map and for that. How do I create emotional connect with my audience? How do I create logical connect with my audience? There's a different ballgame for that. Because there are right brainers and left brainers in the audience as well, right?
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Leandro. This is. Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Fabulous. Let me put my video on. Hi. Good morning. Wherever you seems rather bright on your side. So, yeah. To start, I just wanted to say that's an incredible hairdo that you've got over there. I think it's amazing. Only you can pull it off. So that's really cool. And also, the session was so much fun. Like you so perfectly put all of the components together. They just sort of flow into one another. I thought that was really cool. I have a question more with. So after one finishes this session, or intonation and voice and speech and all of these things, after that, when they go out in the world and they try to practice it, there are certain challenges, let's say, that I have come across that I'd love to sort of get your take on it. So in a sense, the question is, how do you deal with purposefully incorrect English as a medium to fit in? That's what the question is, right? So drawing from a personal example again, I have always sort of spoken the way I speak, and it's done me good professionally. But then when I speak to my friends and I use like the same English, because that's what I'm used to, they tell me, I mean, again, I don't know if it's a compliment, but they're like, hey, you know what, Al, it seems like whenever I talk to you, it's as if I'm speaking to the HR. And I don't want to reply to that, it's very formal. That's what I've got. And at that point, like at the start, I didn't know like how to deal with it. But then in time, I realized that, I probably need to make more mistakes while I talk. So it seems more genuine. And I started, using phrases like, your quintessential Bandra stuff, right? Like boys talking, you're mad or what? Some shit like that. Oh, excuse my French. So yeah, like how do you deal with this stuff where you are decent with English, but then when you use that English in a certain setting, it seems to be counterproductive. How do you deal with that?
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much. That question seems so close to home because it's something I've experienced myself growing up in Bandra. I came from a family that always spoke in English and been to some schools and been to a lot of drama schools out of country as well. I always try to fit in and try to, kind of go with the herd mentality. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. There's nothing better than just being yourself, being natural, being authentic, being who you are. Speak the language as it is to be spoken, no matter what people say. He's putting on an accent, or it sounds so fake, blah blah. You will get all of that. Just because sometimes people feel a bit, well, they've got areas of improvement, they need to grow and down to a certain level. So you're going to get that. I don't think, because I've done exactly what you've done. Like, for example, petrol. I mean, everyone goes around in India and they say petrol, right? But to me, it's alien because it's petrol. And so when we used to go and fill gas or whatever, in the States we call it gas, right? And we say petrol, and then say, oh, petrol. I mean, it's so British, you know? And I said, but that's the way we say it. It is petrol. It's not petrol. And well, you know, I was born in Bandra, and you actually gave us typical examples of the what meant times. Yeah, you know, I'm very proud to be born in Bandra, but then there are some very good things. There are some things that can get better. And one of them is the lingo and the way people communicate. So I don't think you should change for anybody. Too bad if they can't accept you as you are, well spoken. Let them up their game. Why should you drop your game, Alvin?
Oh, Jesus, that's some hard-hitting advice. Thank you so much for that. That's amazing. Thank you.
Happy to take any question. Lovely, lovely questions. Thank you so much for those who, because when you ask questions, you help all our learners on the platform to learn. Lovely.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is a simple exercise which you can do like every day to improve your clarity of speech?
Sure. There is something known as a Sicily berry. So for example, it captures both the consonants and the vowel sounds. So you'll have oot, you'll have the sounds like oo, o, o, r, a, e. And then you have at the end, certain consonant sounds like t, d, d. So oot, ot, ot, art, ate, eat. Ood, od, od, ard, ate, eat. And then you can keep going on with various consonants behind. That really helps clarity of speech, really helps you to articulate and speak, right? To open your mouth. The whole idea is vowels are open sounds. Try saying your A, E, I, O, and U with your lips in contact. You can't say it.
No, you can't.
You can't say it. That straight away tells us we need to open our mouth and speak. And a lot of us tend to mutter. So the Sicily berry, C-I-C-E-L-E-Y, I think, B-E-R-R-Y. If you just Google it, you get a whole list of exercises. Tongue twisters is another very good tool. For example, tick-a-tack-a-two, 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 when Tina's shoe, tick-a-tack-a, tick-a-tack-a, tick-a-tack-a-two. Now, tongue twisters, be very careful, my friends. You use tongue twisters not to show off of a pace, because pace comes when you get strong or you strengthen that area of expertise. But clarity of speech or tongue twisters are used for articulation. So your points of articulation for your consonants and your vowel sounds. So tick-a-tack-a, tick-a-tack-a, tick-a-tack-a-two, unlike tick-a-tack-a, tick-a-tack-a, tick-a-tack-a-two. Can you hear the difference?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so tongue twisters help, but again, for clarity of speech, not for pace. And the second is the Sicily berry. These are two very powerful exercises that you can actually do for 5 to 10 minutes every day that really help you to open up and speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome to be. Any other questions? We have 6 minutes to showtime, to close of showtime. If there are no questions, then over to our friends Cheryl and Marianne. And yeah, so first of all, I want you to unmute yourselves and give yourselves a huge round of applause. Let me share with you, you know, we are here. I mean, I always say I am because of you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. And so thank you very much for taking the time out, learning, listening, enjoying, start living it now. Yeah, that's when you live the learning. And think about the C3 certification. Cheryl, you can touch base with Cheryl and team, and hopefully we can run this somewhere this year so we can graduate you by October. That's the plan at least. Yeah. Thank you. I'm talking about the C3.
Thank you, Leo. This was a fantastic session you had.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else with any more questions? Janice, you had a question, right?
Yeah, but it is very similar to Nikita's question. So my answer kind of got answer. My question kind of got answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
I think
tell
I
me.
still put my point forward, my question forward. So, Diana, I had a like if we are in an office environment, this is a very futuristic question. Okay, so we are there, and suppose you're having a headache, and you tell your colleague, "Arey, I have a headache. I can't work. I really can't work." How will you put it across to a person in like by words that you cannot work today? It is a little too much. Also, with regards to suppose you cannot do an assignment because a laptop has crashed and the professor is not ready to believe that, but your friend knows it is crashed. So how will you put it across to someone and you know it is genuine? It is not something that you're even faking. How do you get your word across is my question.
Exactly how you did it. Exactly how you did it. You know, a lot of us somewhere shy with the truth because we feel the other side, whether it's our boss, our professor, friend, family member, whoever the significant other is, we believe they won't trust us, they won't believe us because it's in the negative. I think you need to be honest. And you hit the nail on the head when you said it's a genuine case. You tell people and if they don't believe you for example, if your head is aching in the West, if you have a flu, it's an unspoken code. You just don't go to office. Now, I know because I worked initially, part of my career I spent in India and in Asia. So I know how the cultures were different. So you just expected to be there or, and people didn't bother. Here in the West, people like, you got a cold, means don't come because you just spread it then. Or you're feeling unwell, stay at home and work from home. Work from home now, I guess, with your, I can say, I think safely your generation, work from home is easily accessible, right, to all of us. I mean, 2 years of the pandemic, I trained virtually. Otherwise, for 18 years, I always trained on site. Again, this year, things are opening up and so I'm traveling a bit crazy again. So be honest, like I shared with Alvin as well, be honest, be yourself. If you need to call a spade and not a shovel. For example, I'll give you one thing that has worked for me personally. I'm not too sure it'll work for you, but it worked for me. Never overcommit. Always undercommit, but overdeliver. So even if you know you can submit that project work or report by Friday next, which is the 11th of March, give your professor, give your boss the deadline of Tuesday. Always undercommit and overdeliver. It's terrible to say, I'll give it to you on Thursday and then you give it to them on the weekend. And that leaves a little bad taste.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it has worked for me in my career graph. But if I was in your case and I was feeling unwell, I'm just telling my boss I'm feeling unwell, I'm not coming into the period. If I can't deliver something, if I've overcommitted, then I need to really burn the midnight oil. If I'm undercommitted and still can't deliver, then there's a problem somewhere in the working, right? I've not been able to meet the deadline. Why? You need to ask yourself, you need to introspect why. Why haven't you been able to complete it? What were the lapses? It's a learning. Every failure is a learning.
Leandro, I have one question. Before we end the session, I'd like to ask you, could you share some tips on how to be more assertive with people? Like it could be in your professional life also, personal life also. What is the importance of assertive communication and how to go about it? Just a few tips on that.
Absolutely. See, I take this from, thank you so much, Marianne, for that question. I look at it from a transactional analysis perspective. No, I'm okay, you're okay. That is assertive communication. That is positive communication. Now, let's say I'm not okay, you're not okay. But actually, the truth is, because I'm not okay, I also say you're not okay. Now, that is where it becomes abdicative or manipulative communication. I'm okay, you're not okay. Aggressive. Problem lies with you. I'm okay, you're okay. Positive. I'm not okay, you're okay. Passive communication. Now, we want to avoid being abdicative. We want to avoid being passive. We want to avoid being aggressive. We want to be assertive. Now, how can you be assertive? There are three ways. One is you always speak your mind. You speak your heart, you speak your mind, okay? Don't be assumptive, because when you assume, like they say, you make an ass of you and me. That is assume, right? Never assume. Ask questions, drill it down till you're crystal clear. Look at it from another person's perspective as well. It takes assumption out. And last is assert your point of view. Assert it. So even if you have to call, the problem is people are very, and this again is cultural, Mary. And I noticed in India as well as in Asia, by the way, cultures are pretty close, Asia and India. I think we're more, and it gets even worse in Asia, because I worked for many years in Japan and Korea and things like that. And this culture of people don't leave the office if the boss is there. There are people that are dropping to the floor at train stations in Japan out of mere fatigue. So there again, you find people not asserting their point of view. And that's rolling up to our friend earlier who asked that question, who was Janice, where you need to assert your point of view, you need to be honest, you need to speak your heart and mind. And too bad if the other person can't understand that. So assertive from a transactional perspective is I'm okay, you're also okay, and it has to be a win-win for both of us.
Thank you so much, Leandro. We have one last question by a mentee. I tend to be pretty confident in person. However, communicating specifically online and over calls, I tend to not talk at all. I'm not sure why. What about that can you do? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, the suggestion is unmute yourself and say something. Sometimes our complexities are so like, is it easier to eat like this or to eat like this? Obviously, it's easier to eat like this, right? So a lot of us, let me put this in perspective. There are a lot of people happy to live in the virtual world, because the moment they are faced with a large audience looking at them, they're all shivers and they're sweating from head to toe. Yet there are many on the other end of the spectrum, like the lady who asked or the gent who asked this question, who virtually they are not able to get their point across, because you see, it's a dog-eat-dog-eat world. If you don't unmute yourself, you don't put your video on, you're in your comfort zone and you're happy to stay there. I don't even know, apart from who I can see and the names I can read, I don't know who else is on this platform. Now I can see Sasha, I can see Darren, I can see Janice, just the name Andre, Cheryl, and now Mary Ann, because she's there live. But otherwise, I have no clue. So if you don't take the initiative and push yourself out of your comfort zone, specifically the present, and that too, in a case like this, when I don't know my participants personally. It's a different game if I know you, have been working with you for a while, and I say, come on, now Janice, come on, I'll put your video on, I want to see you, I want you to say something. I will call you by name, but now I've never met you. I've never seen you. So it's up to you to push yourself out of your comfort zone. At least come halfway. Like whoever's name I could see up here, I was calling out to them because I could interact, I could see, but otherwise I can't see any other names. I don't even know who's there. So take the initiative, push yourself out of your comfort zone. That's the only way forward. And over a period of time, confidence, like learning, is a process, my friend. It takes time. Nothing of substance happens in a jiffy. Specifically, confidence and communication.
I have a question, but if it's time, then I I mean, should I ask it or should I not? I'm just a little bit confused.
I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine to answer.
Yeah. Okay. So you said listening is a part of your communication, right? Uh, I'm not sure how I'm putting this question, but it might seem a little bit confusing to you while hearing it. But uh, please try and understand what I'm asking. So, how do you learn while talking? You, if you, as in, so when you're listening to a person, you learn from that listening. But when you are communicating yourself, how do you learn through your communication?
So this is a double-edged sword question, and I'll answer both edges. Don't worry. Thank you so much. I think that's Darren. Darren, thank you so much. So, see, let me put it in this perspective. That's why, like I said, I mentioned this. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Why? So I speak less and I listen more. Now, when I'm listening to all of you, there's a far better chance I will learn something new for the first time in my life. Am I right? Yeah. But if I'm talking, like I do most of, I'm talking and talking and talking, how do I learn? You're right. I don't learn because I'm only listening to what's coming out of my knowledge, my limited knowledge up here. That's why listening, you will learn far more by listening to people. Now,
But,
how to?
sorry. So, as in, so while communicating, I mean, when we are speaking, you're also speaking to a person and learning from his body language, right? So that is one part of your learning while you are speaking, and you come to know how to like better communicate, I guess, to those people.
Right. So actually, Darren, what you're saying is nothing but the power of observation, right? That's powerful. The non-verbal cues that I receive from people. So sometimes you see students sitting and they're just staring into blank air. You know you're not cutting through there. You know you've missed the point, or they're lost. They're there on the platform, but they're everywhere else but the platform. So this comes also with experience over a period of time where you pick up more from the non. That's why the virtual world is not easy. It's been far tougher. There are a lot of facilitators who refuse to facilitate in the last 2 years because they're not able to cut through with their adult learners. I'm talking about in our line of work. But it's a bigger challenge because for 18 years, I've always had live audiences where there's an immediate connection, there's immediate biofeedback, there's a lot of this and that happening in that one room. But on a platform, it's only windows. And if you don't put your window on, I'm lost and you're equally lost. You're only listening, right? So yeah, it's far tougher, but the power of observation, right? And another thing I want to share with you from a learning perspective. How do I learn? When sessions are being recorded, I ensure that I go back and I watch that session. That's learning for me, right? I make my little notes on what worked in the session, what I can do better, what didn't work. Maybe this is something I can take off. I don't need to talk about this. It didn't sit well. That's my learning. But again, it comes with because I want to learn, I take that initiative and effort to go and listen. No one can force you to do something you don't want to do. Thanks, Darren. Have I answered your question?
Yes. So yeah, actually, I meant it in terms of self-feedback, basically. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we call that biofeedback. Yeah. Over to Cheryl and Marianne, if there are no questions.
So, Leandro, we have a mentee that would like to give the voters thanks to you.
Sure, absolutely.
Sasha, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. First off, thank you so much, Leandro, for this wonderful webinar. Thanks for sharing about how to connect with the audience through tone, body language, and content, something that you did very well today. And thanks for being so relatable. One thing that I really did appreciate was how to give negative feedback to people, you know, and how to be assertive. Something that Marian had asked, because you know what, in this virtual world where we live, the boundaries between, you know, when work starts and when work stops, when home life begins, when home life, you know, stops, it's all been blurred. So sometimes you have to like tell your professors that no, this is it, you know, to keep yourself and to keep your own mental health also in, you know, give it some rest and stuff. So thank you so much for that. These are things that we can use in our daily lives, so daily interactions with our friends, colleagues, and for that I thank you for that. And I hope that the C3 certification, the course will be available, that you can come to Bombay and you can do it, because I for one, and I encourage everyone, all our fellow mentees to do it, because I really do want to do it. Actually, that's why I came to the session. Yeah, I really did benefit, and I think I can speak for everyone over here, whether on this Zoom platform, on the YouTube channel, that all of us did benefit and learn something. And I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and speak to us. And as always, I'm very grateful to take charge for program to have such a charismatic personality like you to come forward, take time and teach us all of these things, which is something that some of us are even graduating for college. So we need these things, you know, for job interviews or, you know, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Sasha, for those lovely words.
Also, I would like to add, we've had our TC5 mentee applicants also join in, and you know, they've stayed till the end. So thank you so much to all the TC5 applicants that have come in and been there. And I hope this webinar has helped you all. And please share your feedback with us. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you, Leandro. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leandro.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for being there right to the end. Yes. Thank you. I hope you've learned something.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.